We have all felt it. It's a moment as common as the rising sun, yet it holds within it a profound lesson about our own psychology. You are walking down a street, or perhaps sitting in traffic, when it glides past. A machine of exquisite engineering and design, a Ferrari, a Porsche, a Bentley. The engine hums with a power you can feel in your chest. The paint reflects the world like a distorted mirror, a perfect, polished surface. And for a fleeting second, a thought crystallizes in your mind. Wow! But what is the substance of that wow? If we are honest with ourselves, the thought is rarely, wow, the person driving that car must be an incredibly cool, admirable, and interesting individual. No. The thought is almost always a projection of ourselves. We think, wow, if I had that car, people would think I was cool. If I was behind that wheel, imagine the respect, the admiration, the envy I would command. We don't admire the person. We use the object they possess as a mental backdrop against which we paint a more impressive version of ourselves. We imagine the feeling of being seen, of being acknowledged as successful. The driver, the actual human being in the car, becomes invisible. They are merely a placeholder for the life we desire. This subtle, almost instantaneous mental sleight of hand is what author Morgan Housel calls the man-in-the-car paradox. It is one of the most powerful and quietly devastating paradoxes in the world of personal finance and human desire. It reveals a fundamental flaw in our pursuit of wealth. We often strive to buy things to gain the respect and admiration of others, but those very same people rarely grant us that respect. Instead, they just use our possessions as a benchmark for their own desires. This paradox is not merely an interesting quirk of human nature. It is a key that unlocks a deeper understanding of envy, motivation, and the true meaning of a well-lived life. It forces us to ask one of the most important questions we can ever ask ourselves. Are we building a life of genuine substance, or are we merely trying to furnish a stage for an audience that isn't even paying attention? Today, we will deconstruct this paradox, explore the psychological machinery that drives it, and uncover a more durable, more meaningful path to a life of true wealth and freedom. To understand why the man-in-the-car paradox holds such a powerful grip on us, we must first look inward, at the very architecture of our own minds. At its core, the paradox is fueled by a cognitive bias that is as natural to us as breathing, the egocentric worldview. We are each the protagonist in our own sprawling, epic narrative. Every experience, every observation is filtered through the lens of me. How does this affect me? What does this mean for my life? How can I use this to my advantage? When we see that expensive car, we aren't processing it as a data point in someone else's life story. We are processing it as an input into our own. The car ceases to be an object and becomes a symbol, a potent representation of a cluster of desirable feelings, respect, freedom, power, and admiration. Our brain, in its relentless effort to map the world according to our own needs and desires, immediately translates that symbol into a personal fantasy. We don't see a person enjoying their vehicle. We see an opportunity for ourselves to be admired. This is the psychology of invisibility. The richer the possession, the more it eclipses the possessor. The object becomes so loud that the person becomes silent. We think a Lamborghini will make us seen, but it is the car that everyone sees. We, the driver, are just the temporary, faceless operator of the symbol. The irony is staggering. We pursue wealth to enhance our identity, to become more visible, yet the very tools we use to achieve this often render us anonymous. We become the man in the car, a mere accessory to our own accessories. This extends far beyond automobiles. Consider the person wearing a $50,000 watch. Do we stop and think that individual must have a profound appreciation for horological craftsmanship and the intricate mechanics of a tourbillon movement? Occasionally, perhaps, but for the vast majority, the thought is, if I had that watch, people would know I'm successful. The watch is not a signal of the owner's character, it's a prop we imagine using in our own play. The same is true for the sprawling mansion on the hill. We drive by and don't contemplate the family inside, their joys, their struggles, their daily routines. We contemplate what it would be like for us to host a party in that grand living room, to watch the sunset from that infinity pool. The residents are ghosts in a house we have already mentally possessed. This dynamic reveals a deep and uncomfortable truth about the pursuit of status. We are all engaged in a peculiar form of communication, a sort of social signaling game where everyone is broadcasting, but very few are receiving. We spend years of our lives sacrificing time, energy, and peace of mind to acquire symbols that we hope will transmit a message about our worth. But the people we want to receive that message are too busy crafting their own. It creates what we might call the great asymmetry of admiration. We believe that if we work hard enough to acquire the symbols of success, we will be met with a constant stream of validation and respect from the world. We have a deep-seated belief that there is a gallery of judges out there, our peers, our neighbors, strangers on the street, who are carefully scoring our progress. But the reality is that the gallery is mostly empty. The judges are all preoccupied with their own performances. This results in a societal treadmill. Person A works tirelessly to buy a luxury sedan to impress Person B. Person B, upon seeing the sedan, doesn't think, Person A is so impressive. Person B thinks, I need to work harder so I can afford a car like that, and then Person C will be impressed with me. Person C, of course, is doing the exact same thing. It is a closed loop of desire, fueled by a collective illusion that someone, somewhere, is actually keeping score. This is not to say that no one ever notices. They do, but often in the most perfunctory and fleeting way. The admiration we receive from material possessions is a cheap sugar high. It's a momentary spike of acknowledgement that quickly fades, leaving us needing another, bigger hit. The person who is impressed by your new car today will be impressed by someone else's yacht tomorrow. The validation you seek is ephemeral because it is tied to an object, not to your character.
This endless chase for admiration we ourselves are hesitant to give is the engine of modern consumer culture. It's what keeps us chained to jobs we dislike, living in a state of perpetual low-grade anxiety about our social standing. We are chasing a ghost, a phantom of respect that we believe lives in the minds of others, but which in reality is just a reflection of our own insecurities. Breaking free from this cycle requires a profound paradigm shift. It requires moving from a life oriented around external validation to one grounded in internal substance. And that begins with a crucial distinction, one that lies at the heart of all financial wisdom, the difference between being rich and being wealthy. The man in the car paradox brilliantly exposes our confusion between being rich and being wealthy. Society, marketing, and our own primal instincts all conspire to make us equate the two, but they are fundamentally different concepts, operating on different planes of existence. To be rich is to have a high income. It is a measure of cash flow. Richness is often loud, visible, and performative. The person who earns $1 million a year and spends $1 million a year is rich. They can afford the fancy car, the designer clothes, the extravagant vacations. They can buy the things that signal success. Richness is what we see. It's the sports car gliding down the street. It is by its very nature designed to be noticed. Wealth, however, is silent. Wealth is what you don't see. It is the money that hasn't been spent. It is the assets in your investment portfolio, the stocks, the bonds, the real estate that are quietly compounding in the background. Wealth is the income you didn't use to buy the car. It is financial resilience. It is a measure of endurance, not a snapshot of expenditure. The man in the $10,000 suit may be rich. The man in the 10-year-old t-shirt with $10 million in a brokerage account is wealthy. The paradox is that we only see the richness, so we mistakenly aspire to that. We chase the visible proxy for success, while the true substance of financial freedom remains completely hidden from view. Naval Ravikant, the philosopher and investor, puts this beautifully. He says, "Wealth is assets that earn while you sleep." It is not about spending. It is about owning. Owning a piece of a business, owning a piece of a rental property, owning assets that work for you so you don't have to work for them. The ultimate purpose of wealth is not to buy more luxuries. It is to buy freedom. This is the most critical point. The true prize that wealth offers is not admiration, but autonomy. It is the ability to control your time. It is the power to wake up in the morning and say, "I can do whatever I want today." You can work on a project that inspires you, regardless of its earning potential. You can spend the day with your children without a glance at your email. You can take a year off to write a book or travel the world. You can endure a medical emergency or a job loss without the soul-crushing panic of financial ruin. This is a form of power that is far more profound and enduring than the fleeting admiration one might get from a luxury car. The car, in fact, can be the very thing that prevents you from attaining this freedom. The monthly payments, the insurance, the maintenance. It is a financial anchor, tethering you to the need for a high income, forcing you to stay in the job that you may not love, all to maintain a performance for an audience that isn't watching. Think of two individuals. The first is a lawyer who makes $500,000 a year. She drives a new Porsche, lives in a large house in an expensive neighborhood, and takes luxurious vacations. She is, by all accounts, rich. However, she is also shackled by immense student loan debt, a massive mortgage, and the constant pressure to bill more hours to maintain her lifestyle. She works 60 hours a week and is consumed by stress. She has very little control over her time. The second individual is an engineer who makes $150,000 a year. He lives in a modest house, drives a reliable 10-year-old Honda, and saves and invests over half of his income. Over 15 years, he has built a portfolio of assets worth $2 million. He is not visibly rich, but he is incredibly wealthy. The passive income from his investments now covers his basic living expenses. He has reached a point where work is optional. He has the freedom to quit his job and start his own company, or to work part-time, or to retire completely and dedicate his life to his passions. Who is in the better position? Who has won the more important game? The man in the car paradox seduces us into playing the wrong game. We chase the visible tokens of richness, believing they will bring us happiness, when in fact they often imprison us. The true game is the pursuit of wealth, the silent, invisible accumulation of assets that buys you the one thing money can actually buy that is worth having: control over your own life. So, how do we escape this trap? How do we recalibrate our desires and start playing a game that we can actually win? A game that leads to genuine, lasting satisfaction. It requires a conscious and deliberate effort to reframe our entire approach to success, ambition, and the meaning of a good life. It involves turning our focus away from the external world of appearances
and toward the internal world of values. The first step is to disentangle motivation from validation. We must learn to distinguish between intrinsic and extrinsic goals. An extrinsic goal is one pursued for an external reward, the admiration of others, a trophy, a status symbol. Buying a car primarily to impress your neighbors is an extrinsic goal. An intrinsic goal, on the other hand, is one pursued for its own sake, for the inherent satisfaction and joy it brings. Buying a beautifully engineered car because you have a deep personal passion for automotive design and the pure experience of driving is an intrinsic goal. The person motivated intrinsically is immune to the man in the car paradox. Their satisfaction comes from the activity itself, not from the imagined approval of an audience. They are not performing, they are living. Before making any significant purchase or life decision, ask yourself this simple but powerful question. Am I doing this for the story I can tell others, or for the experience I will have myself? If you would still pursue this goal, even if you could never tell another soul about it, then you are on the right track. The second step is to consciously opt out of status games you cannot win or that are not worth winning. As the saying goes, don't play status games. All status is local. Trying to be the richest person in the neighborhood is a fool's errand because the goalpost is always moving. Once you have the nicest car, you'll notice the person with the bigger house. Once you have the bigger house, you'll hear about someone with a private jet. It is a ladder with no top rung. Instead, define your own game. Your definition of success should be personal and unique to you. Perhaps success isn't a certain net worth, but the ability to eat dinner with your family every single night. Perhaps it isn't a luxury brand, but the physical fitness to hike a mountain on your 70th birthday. Perhaps it isn't a corner office, but a life rich in deep, meaningful relationships and creative expression. When you define your own game, you become the sole judge of your success. Envy withers away because you are no longer comparing your progress on your unique path to someone else's progress on a completely different one. You are playing a game of one. The third, and perhaps most powerful strategy, is to cultivate the discipline of enough. The modern world is a machine designed to convince you that you are incomplete, that you are lacking, and that the solution is always one more purchase away. The antidote to this relentless pressure is to define what is sufficient for your own happiness and well-being. The Roman Stoic philosopher Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in his time, wrote extensively on this topic. He argued that true wealth is not about having a great deal, but about wanting very little. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. This is not an argument for asceticism or a rejection of ambition. It is an argument for conscious, deliberate consumption. It is about understanding the point of diminishing returns, the point at which more stuff does not bring more happiness, but only more complexity, more anxiety, and more obligations. Finding your enough level is one of a lifetime's most important spiritual and financial tasks. It is the anchor that holds you steady in a sea of manufactured desire. It is the internal compass that guides you away from the empty pursuit of more and toward a richer appreciation of what you already possess. Gratitude is the bedrock of enough. When you are genuinely thankful for your health, your relationships, and the simple comforts of your life, the allure of the shiny object in the distance begins to fade. You realize that you already possess the core ingredients of a happy life. Everything else is just a bonus. Let us return one last time to that image. The expensive car, gleaming under the sun, gliding past you on the street. Before, it may have triggered a pang of envy, a flicker of desire, a fantasy of a different life. But now, you see it with new eyes. You no longer see a symbol of what you lack. You see a potent reminder of a deep psychological truth. You see the man in the car paradox in action. You see a person broadcasting a signal of success, a signal that you now understand is likely being received by no one in the way they intend. You see the quiet irony of someone driving a machine designed to make them visible while remaining completely invisible themselves. You might feel a sense of compassion, not envy. Compassion for someone who may be caught on the same social treadmill you are now choosing to step off. You see the immense effort and sacrifice that likely went into acquiring that object, and you question the return on that investment. You wonder if it brought them the lasting peace and satisfaction they were hoping for, or if it simply raised the baseline for their desires. And then you turn your attention away from the car and back to your own life. You think not of the things you could buy to impress others, but of the freedom you can build for yourself. You think of your wealth, the silent, unseen portion of your life that is steadily growing, providing you with security, optionality, and autonomy. You think of the game you have chosen to play, a game measured not in dollars or horsepower, but in the quality of your time and the depth of your purpose. The ultimate goal is not to be the man in the car that others envy. The goal is to build a life so internally rich, so full of meaning and freedom that you no longer care if anyone is watching. The ultimate luxury is not a Bentley. It is a state of mind. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that you have enough, that you are enough. It is the profound peace that comes from owning the most valuable asset of all, your own life. And that is a form of wealth that no one can see, but you can feel every single day.